Today's Focus Report takes us to Crimea, the Ukrainian region annexed and occupied by Russia since 2014. In recent weeks, northern parts of the peninsula have been hit by toxic pollution, impacting the health of the local people. Suspicions point to Europe's largest titanium dioxide factory situated on the Crimean side of the border. Local authorities are downplaying the crisis, while Russian and Ukrainian officials trade blame. Elena Voloshin and Gulliver Cragg went to investigate.
Autumn came early to Armyansk this year. It wasn't the weather that turned the leaves brown, but a massive release of toxic gas, apparently from a titanium dioxide factory 10 kilometers to the north. Since then, the town's playgrounds have been empty.
You see? It's gone yellow. That's from the acid. It got everywhere, onto every metal object in the town. One of my kids rubbed his eyes after touching it, and he needed treatment for 2 weeks. It was serious. He'd burned his mucous membrane.
In early September, in the dead of night, Katya and her family also left Armyansk temporarily. But it wasn't until 2 weeks after the toxic cloud appeared that the authorities finally moved to evacuate the town's children.
For 7 days, they insisted daily that it wasn't a health risk. Only on the 8th day, they admitted that it actually was dangerous and evacuated everyone. The soldiers at the barracks had already evacuated their families. I guess they know better than anyone that children's health is in danger here.
The state of emergency has now been lifted and the kids brought back. The mayor is playing down the problem.
There was no evacuation. The word evacuation isn't appropriate.
Why can't we say evacuation?
Because an evacuation is something else entirely.
Telizhenko says the problem has arisen because the factory's acid reservoir is too dry. He blames Ukraine.
They closed the North Crimean Canal, so there was not enough water. Actually, it would be possible to fill the acid reservoir even without opening the canal. But this would require the Ukrainians to fill up the artificial lakes, which are located on their side.
It's not clear whether the acid reservoir really is the source of the pollution, but Crimea certainly does have a water shortage. Until recently, the peninsula got 85% of its water from the Dnieper River in mainland Ukraine via the North Crimean Canal. But when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, the canal was blocked. First, this makeshift dam was put in place by Ukrainian activists keen to punish the invaders. Later, the state added this more permanent installation. On the Ukrainian-held side, the village of Preobrazhenka has also been hit by the strange pollution. This mobile laboratory is measuring the air quality. The specialists reject the idea that the lack of water is to blame.
We would be seeing increased levels of acetic anhydride if this were coming from the acid reservoir, and we're not. So that theory doesn't hold up. We think there was a one-off discharge, which would suggest that the factory has not been respecting proper procedures, or that there was some accident that they're not telling us about.
Kiev sees the canal as a reminder of Crimea's integration with Ukraine and refuses to supply water for as long as Russia is illegally occupying the territory. As Ukraine sees it, Crimea's only legitimate authorities are here in the city of Kherson, exiled from the peninsula.
What we're seeing here is a very stupid, poorly thought-out attempt by Russian propaganda to exploit this ecological and humanitarian situation to have another go at persuading us to send water down the canal. Though there are plenty of ways to reduce chemical pollution, the simplest one being to simply close these factories.
Crimea's de facto authorities seem to be torn between blaming Ukraine and saying the problem's been solved. Katya is convinced that it has not.
This lid was in my cupboard. I washed it 2 or 3 days ago. So if the chemical discharges have stopped, where's this gunk coming from?
Katya is all the more skeptical of official versions of events since she's noted even the doctors are acting cagey.
We had fever, we were vomiting. The kids had blotches all over them. They were telling everyone that it was just flu. So I asked the doctor, I said, is this because of the chemical discharge from the factory? She said the word no, whilst at the same time nodding her head as if to say yes. I reckon they were under orders to keep quiet about it, because if doctors started telling all the mums that this was coming from the factory, there'd be panic.
Since this report was filmed, residents of Armyansk have complained of another wave of toxic pollution. Those who can are leaving town.